Hello, I'm Alexander Jeffrey, a summer associate with the Clark-Esposito law firm. This presentation will discuss export administration regulations, specifically understanding ECCNs. We will look at the components of an ECCN, determining exceptions, and utilizing country charts and groupings. First, we will discuss the export administration's regulations generally. The Bureau of Industry and Security, BIS, under the U.S. Department of Commerce regulates export transactions through the empowerment of the Code of Federal Regulations Title 15, which is the Commerce and Foreign Trade Provision, often annotated as 15 CFR. Specifically, the Export Administration Regulations, EAR, subchapter codifies all of the regulations and methodology for export controls by the BIS. A vast majority of the items regulated by BIS require no license and fall under an EAR 99 classification. Select exported goods are more strictly controlled through the system implemented in tandem with the Commerce Control List, CCL. The regulations of goods on the CCL are codified systematically through the Export Control Classification Number system. The ECCN is broken into multiple parts that signify different aspects of the good itself or export transaction, while also providing additional guidance about filing. The first part of an ECCN is the category. The first digit of an ECCN stands for the broad category that the item is classified under. Ranging from 0 to 9, each digit signifies a broad classification for the good to be exported. This may be descriptive of the actual item or of its intended use. 0 is nuclear and miscellaneous. 1 is materials, chemicals, microorganisms, and toxins. 2 is materials processing. 3 is electronics. 4 is computers. 5 is telecommunications and information security. 6 is sensors and lasers. 7 is navigation and avionics. 8 is marine. And 9 is aerospace and propulsion. The next part of an ECCN is the product. The letter in an ECCN signifies the type of actual item under the broad category. A stands for systems, equipment, and components. B stands for test inspection and production equipment. C stands for material. D stands for software. And E stands for technology. The last component of an ECCN is the type of control. The 3-digit number after the product letter signifies the particular control that is to be applied. Controls are specific and may only apply to a very distinct product in a category. The two examples given on the slide are both from Category 2, Materials Processing, and our Product A, Systems, Equipment, and Components. Now you can see that each has a different type of control, and these controls differ based on a particular use of the component referenced and how it is made. Under each ECCN is the reason for control symbolized by at least one of 14 two-letter codes. The reason for control helps exporters to confirm they are referring to the correct ECCN for their transaction. The reason for control may also lead to the need for a license in certain countries. The example given has MT and AT listed for the reasons for control. AT is anti-terrorism and MT is missile technology. The other codes that stand for reasons for control are CB, chemical and biological weapons, CC, crime control, CW, chemical weapons conventions, EI, encryption item, FC, firearms control, NP, nuclear nonproliferation, NS, national security, RS, regional stability, SI, significant item, SL, surreptitious listening, SS, short supply, and lastly, UN, United Nations embargo. Under each ECCN listing, there's a note about exceptions. EAR Part 740 offers an extensive list of exceptions to licenses that apply to certain scenarios, and ECCN will list the codes of inapplicable exceptions, although applicability of other exceptions may also be questionable due to other factors of the transaction, such as blocked parties or other regulations that would essentially make the exceptions inapplicable. The example given lists LVS, GBS, and CIV as non-applicable exceptions. LVS, which is the shipment of limited values, is found as 740.3 of the EAR. GBS, which is the shipment to Group B countries, is found as 740.4 of the EAR. CIV is several end users. This exception will no longer be used at all after June 29, 2020, so it is left off the list that is given. Given is a list of the most commonly used exceptions. As a note, there can be list-based exceptions or transaction-based exceptions. The U.S. Commerce, Treasury, and State Departments all have lists of designated individuals and entities that exporters are prohibited from interacting with. So, to conduct a transaction with one of these entities, there would need to be a list-based exception in place or special permission. On the other hand, for transactions, if a transaction is blocked, then there needs to be an exception or special permission for the specific transaction. Another very useful tool with working with ECCNs is the Commerce Country Chart. Used alongside the CCL, this chart is used to identify if a license is needed for a transaction based on the reason for control as given by the applicable ECCN. An ECCN will reference the applicable reason for control column for the country chart. This column is to be cross-referenced with the destined country using the chart, and if there is an X in the column, then generally the transaction is prohibited and needs a special license. For the example given, NS, which is national security, only applies to column 2 for this given item. So, in reference to the sample of the chart, this item would not be prohibited unless there was a special license for all of the countries given. Conversely, for AT, which is anti-terrorism, it only applies to column 1 for this item. So, there would be no special license based on anti-terrorism for any of the countries given. Another very important concept to understand for dealing with ECCNs is country grouping. The country groups can be found under Supplement Number 1 for EAR Part 740. BIS groups countries based on their activities and imposes regulations in response to such activities. There are 5 country groups, A through E, but many of the groups have subsections. Regulations may directly refer to a particular country group, so an exporter is tasked with checking the status of their destined country when a country group is mentioned in an exception or license. On the left is an example of Group A country groupings. So, if an exception or license mentioned A1 countries, this will refer to all of the countries shown except for Malta. On the right are Group E countries. In this situation, if an exception or license referred to E1 countries, this would not include Cuba. But if it referred to Group E countries generally, it would refer to all of the countries listed. In summary, we discussed the components of an ECCN, understanding and determining exceptions, and utilizing country charts and groups. If you want more information about the EAR regulations generally, please refer to our other EAR video. Here at the Clark-Esposito Law Firm, our goal is to help streamline the global business operations of importers, exporters, and the companies that support them. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you for viewing.